Hi, I'm Dick Billows, and we're hiking the critical path through the surf on Seabrook Island in South Carolina. I want to talk today about status reporting. I'm talking about the status reports your team members give you. And there are a lot of project managers who, in the beginning, their first project, are sort of at a loss. What the heck do I ask the team to report? And how do I go about getting the data? That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, status reports. What are your team members used to? Well, a couple of things. They may, and in many organizations, this is a cultural tradition, is they come to a weekly status meeting where the project manager goes around the room and they sit there for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, listening to people who they dislike, talk about things they are not interested in, until finally it's their turn to give their status, and they start talking, and they're usually afraid to give any bad news because bad news is not received well. So the team member makes optimistic, let's put it that way, optimistic assessments of how the task is going. And when asked, are you going to finish on time? Team member says, oh yeah, I've got this one under control. Meanwhile, saying to themselves, it will take all of the gods in heaven to render a miracle on me if I'm going to finish this on time. It's impossible. I'm hoping for a miracle. That's the only way I'm going to be even close. So that's one way of getting status report data. Let's talk about another. Another technique some project managers use is to have the team members each write a very long narrative explaining how their task is going and if they're going to finish on time, any problems they have, and so forth. Now, the team members didn't like going around the room and having to talk. They like even less having to put it in writing because they know exactly what's going to happen. This is going to be part of their indictment if they finish late. So the wording is confusing, mealy-mouthed, and the project manager does not get the one thing that we need every week in a project, and that is information about problems when they first occur and are small, because then they're most easily solved. If we do things in our status reporting that cause people not to give us this information, we curse ourselves with having to solve big problems when it's too late. And the sponsors get very angry with us when these big problems come out of nowhere, supposedly. But everybody knows, the team member knew about them weeks or months ago. We've got to have a way of getting status report data that encourages the team members to give us bad news. The best technique, the best practices technique, not to have the team members spend hours crafting and wordsmithing their status report. It's not to have people sit around the table listening to this boring stuff where the only excitement comes when someone's forehead crashes down on the table. Those are not good techniques. What we want to do is two things. We want to have our team members give us an estimate to complete. That is, how much work is remaining on their assignment. And that's it. They give us a little bit of data. It takes, and literally we have hundreds of clients who do it on our website. It takes 15 seconds for someone to enter that data, and then, using the same information from the previous week, the project manager can calculate if the task is on time. And the only requirement here is we want the number to be an honest one. If they're going to take more time than the original estimate, they've got to tell us. And so the second part of this, which is the much more difficult part, is the project manager's got to have good bad news behavior. If I climb down somebody's throat every time they tell me they're going to be late, I stop hearing bad news. And there are too many project managers who haven't learned that very fundamental lesson, is that I cannot get angry when people report problems or they stop doing it. And then you are doomed to sitting there with your project team lying to you because you've made them afraid, and you get surprised at the end, which no one likes, particularly the executives. Now, sure, you can say to me, well, they shouldn't be afraid. Just because I'm unhappy about it, that shouldn't make them afraid. Well, it does. So let's deal with the reality of the situation. That if you come unglued, if you can't handle the news about a problem, you probably shouldn't be in project management. Because what you have to do is when they tell you about the problem, you have to treat it as a joint problem we have to solve. It's something we have to work on. It's not something that means you're a bad person. It's not something that means you betrayed me personally. It means you have a problem and we have to solve it. And I want to take a great deal of time to control my emotions when I hear about bad news, because I'm not saying this stuff's going to make you happy, but what I'm saying is you have to hide the anger, you have to hide the feeling, the hatred, the bad feelings you have about the team member, because we want them to tell us about problems. So you have to practice this, and then go out on the highway and commit an act of road rage on the way home. But with your project team, we have to be placid and calm, and this is a problem-solving issue, no more. Combination of estimates to complete and good bad news behavior is what makes effective status reports.